All right, so again, welcome to Google Club. This is our first session for the year, and we are going to be talking today about creating, organizing, and sharing our content in Google Drive. It's the baseline for everything in the sense that this is where all your Google Docs, anything you're creating in Google, pretty much anything you're creating in Google will sit in Google Drive. And it's easy to create things while you're looking at your Google Drive. So being very familiar, being able to easily move around and find the documents that you need, and feeling comfortable with sharing. And sharing has a lot of little things to it. So today is a great day to bring any questions you have about sharing. If you're feeling any kind of insecurity, I feel like there are a lot of people who stay away from Google because they're afraid of inadvertently sharing something or losing something. So we want to make sure that that's not how any of us feel. So we get to play today too. If you have something you want to try out, like what happens if I do this, this is a great space for all of that. Just as when you do the evaluation at the end, I'll have this again, but this is just to remind you of the information. So today's the 28th. The name of today's session is Google Club, creating, organizing, and sharing our content in Google Drive. And we go from 4 to 5:30, and this is virtual. You've already seen the sign-in sheet link in the chat, but there's this QR code if you want to do it on your phone. But if you've already done it, you only need to do it once. And I'll double check it in a moment and see that everyone's in there. And our objectives today are to talk about how to organize Google Drive, or the things that make it easier maybe to get around in Google Drive, to know where to go to create new documents. And when I say docs here, I kind of mean the broad sense of docs, like Google Slides, Google Sheets, all the documents that you can create, all the file types that you can create with Google. I'm going to do a poll, but I'm going to go a little further on before I do the poll, just to get a sense of where everyone is in their own knowledge levels with Google Drive. I did want to share, we do have a Google Club scheduled for each month going through June. And in fact, June, we have 2. So the next session will be in March. And let me actually just give you this link right now. So here's a link to a folder of resources for today, which includes this set of slides. So you can get to the slides, but you'll see in there that I'll add the calendar in there, but you'll get these slides, and then you'll have all of these links. I'm going to do the sign-in sheet one more time while I'm here. So the next topic will be creating and using HyperDocs, making them with Google Docs or Google Slides. We'll look at both ways of doing it. And we'll talk about HyperDocs in case you haven't heard that term before. In April, we'll be looking at Google Sites, so you can make your own website using Google Sites, and YouTube, which is both of these are places where we feel like you can post your content for your students or your learners very easily, and they can come there on their mobile devices or any device. So that's kind of a content heavy session. In May, we will be looking at Google Forms for assessment and Google Sheets, which can come out of Google Forms, but also looking at Google Sheets separately for administrative type tasks, specifically looking at conditional formatting, but some other elements of Google Sheets. And then in June, the first session, we're going to do kind of a fun, I don't know if you've all seen, someone requested this last year, Arts and Culture. So Google Arts and Culture is a site with a lot of activities. They used to have something called Expeditions, which they no longer have, but we can still kind of create our own expedition and use the Google Arts and Culture site and tools there, and some other bells and whistles. And this can be things that you guys want to share as well. Then the very last session of the year will be our show and tell. And what we ask for that is that you come and show and tell. Bring us something that you've created. Show us something that you got either from Google Club or that you got from just trying out Google with your learners or in your life. And as we get closer to that, I'll start bothering you a little bit more about signing up for that. We did it last year and it was really, really lovely to see the amazing work that you have all been doing. And so the reason I'm kind of going into depth about the calendar is there are two items. One is, again, Google Club is funded by DYCD. These links here are really for DYCD funded programs. So if you know that your program is funded by DYCD, these are perfect links for you to use for registration. If you're not funded by DYCD, which would mean that you're not funded by the Department of Youth and Community Development, maybe you're unemployed right now or working in a different kind of organization or living in a different state, we will create links that will have a PF for public facing, or actually I think it's PC, I don't know, PF, PC, something like that in the link, and that will be the one for folks who are not DYCD funded. So again, these links, perfectly great if your program is funded by DYCD. If you don't know if you're funded by DYCD or you know you're not, then wait till we send you the other links to register. So they're just two different registration processes. Regardless of how you register, though, another new thing this year is that we wanted to include an opportunity for you. So one of the reasons Google Club came into being was the feeling that teachers may not feel always that the professional development that they go to is theirs, right? That you're doing it because it's required, it kind of belongs to your program more than to you. You don't really get a lot of, so I know you'll get certificates and things like that, but not always. So we wanted to support that more strongly. And one of our ideas was to create micro credentials, which in this case will be digital badges. You may have heard of those. And I'm going to look for, I'm still working on the actual format of the digital badge, but the idea would be that something that you could list in your LinkedIn profile, you could add it to your resume, and it would have real meaning. So by having this digital badge, it means that you have these skills. So the digital badge will be awarded based on you completing a task. And the tasks are yours to choose from, and you can do none, you can do all, you can do anything in between. We've created a syllabus. The syllabus has in it all of the sessions with the description at the top. And then as you scroll down, there's a description of the micro-credential idea. So the idea with micro-credentials is that, oops, I think I kept the twice in there. I think I have the dates. Okay, so micro-credential assignments. So each session will have a specific, or in some cases, two possible assignments that you can pick from. For the session today, before we meet again in March, you can tidy up your drive, make a video, a screencast of that, of the outcome of that. So if you're beautiful, maybe you're very happy with your current Google Drive, but you're going to make a screencast explaining various aspects of how you set up your Google Drive. We want to know what folders you have and how you labeled them. If you apply color to the folders, why, if there's a meaning to that, what you starred, how you're using shortcuts within your Google Drive, and how you manage sharing and shared with you. And we're going to talk about all these elements today. And to make the video, we suggest that you could use Zoom, like I'm doing right now. You would just record it with just you and your shared screen, or you could use a screencasting tool like Screencastify. And Padlet also has a screen record post if you have a paid account with them. And if you have questions about any of this, you can always reach out to me. So there is a separate document. This is an overview document for each of the sessions. The next one, Google Slides digital badge. So this is if you want to make your HyperDoc in Slides. Google Docs digital badge if you want to make your HyperDoc in Docs. Google Sites digital badge if you're going to make your own Google website. YouTube digital badge if you're going to make your YouTube video. Google Forms digital badge if you're going to use forms for an assessment. Google Sheets if you're going to use Sheets for administrative purpose. And then the last one is a lesson plan using arts and culture. And the idea is that each of these is due the Monday before the next Google Club. So you have several weeks between when we meet like this and when you need to submit your assignment. Again, completely up to you, but we think that this will be a great way to practice what you're learning here. And in practicing it, that's also how you surface, questions you have in the future or whatever. So this is the overview. In each session, we'll also give you a more broken down version. So in this case, the micro-credential digital badge for assignment 1, which is related to Google Drive. This is kind of what I just went over. These are the items that we need to see in your video. But we give you a little bit more information how to submit. So you'll fill out a Google form and you can put a link to your video there, whether you keep the video in your Google Drive or you put it on YouTube or wherever, you'll get a link from that and put it in that form. And this link here will take you to that document that spells it out a little bit more than the big overview document I just gave you. That was a lot. Anybody have questions? Just go ahead and unmute. All right, you'll have time to ask questions as we go forward. So again, these are our Google Club meetings the Monday before. Each of these is a Wednesday. So the Monday before is the due date for the task related to the previous meeting. Okay, so that was a lot. I'm going to start us off now with our poll. So I want to get a sense of where you all are in your feelings about Google Drive. So I'm going to put out the poll. And there are 5 questions. So go ahead and let me know if you don't see the poll, but it should be showing up on your screen. And I'm asking you how comfortable you are managing files in Google Drive, which includes copying, moving to the trash, downloading to hard drive, uploading from hard drive. And I'm asking from a 1 to a 5. So 1 is, what? I don't even know what you're saying. And 5 is like, yeah, I could do that. I could do that. I might need to kind of go look at it again, but I could do it. I feel pretty comfortable. Is everybody seeing the poll? Okay.
Yeah.
And then each question is sort of the same, another piece of the same thing. So next question is, how comfortable are you with creating and managing folders in Google Drive? So the first question was about files. The second one is about folders. So we're talking about moving a folder, renaming it, removing it, uploading it from a hard drive. Then question number 3 is, how comfortable are you with locating files in Google Drive? So you need to go find something in Google Drive. Do you feel comfortable with searching using the recent bucket or the tab on the side that's called recent? Shared with me is another area that documents can show up in. And then question 4, how comfortable are you with changing display settings in Google Drive? And this includes the grid or list view, file or folder details, last modified date. So again, it's kind of moving inside your Google Drive and how you want it to look. And then the 5th question is, how comfortable are you with sharing files and folders in Google or Google Drive? So adding a shortcut, and some of this terminology has changed, right? We used to talk about sharing or adding a document to my drive, and now it's all done with shortcuts. Assigning or removing ownership, permission settings, sharing notifications. And I'm seeing a nice range. So again, 1 is like, I've never even heard of that, you're crazy. And 5 is, yeah, I can do it. And then 1 through 5, maybe there's something in there that is very weird and you want to go with 2, but don't be timid or don't be bashful. Show your skills, because I know a lot of you are doing a lot of these things a lot. All right, so we've got 12 out of 14 have responded. Going to give you like maybe 30 more seconds. And then we can look at what our, it's a real nice curve there. So there's a lot of threes, a lot of people in the middle. But it does look like sharing is an area that people are feeling a little bit more nervous about, and also maybe files. So that's good. We'll spend a little extra time in those areas. All right, I'm going to end the poll and share the results so you can see what I've been seeing. So in one, we have one person who's feeling not so familiar with it. That's totally cool. And then we have 3 people who are feeling really comfortable. So I hope those folks will jump in when we're sharing some tips about this area. Under 2, which was about folders, very similar actually to number 1. Number 3 is interesting, right? So we have I think we have more people there in the middle. And then number 4, so people are feeling, yeah, this is an area that people are a little nervous about. At least there's fewer people up there in that 5. And then in number 5, we've got more people down here on the nervous. So, okay, that's helpful for me. I'm going to stop sharing. And I really appreciate you all joining in with that. Okay. And what I'm going to do is at the end of the session today, there'll be an evaluation. I'm also going to have sort of like a little post test, I guess you could call it. It's not really a test, it's a self-assessment. And it's usually the same questions, and we're going to see if we've helped you move to a place where you feel a bit more comfortable. So we'll get to that. If I don't do it during the session, I'll email that out to you with other materials too. Okay, so I mentioned the show and tell. So again, this is a live link here, but I'll be sharing that with you via email as well, but the show and tell will be at the end of June. So consider, while we're moving through the year or through our next 5 months together, things that you might want to just demonstrate how you've used some aspect of Google in your work. So we're going to do something called Notice and Wonder. And as a person who ends up doing a lot of technology trainings, I end up talking a lot and I want to talk less. And one of the ideas here is that you guys, this comes from the math world. If any of you are math instructors or have been teaching math at times, this concept of notice and wonder. So we're going to look at 2 images, and you're going to take a little time to look at them. And if you're on the slides, you can toggle back and forth. But I want you to see what you notice in both these images and what questions it creates in your mind. And we've just done that poll, so we've talked a little bit about some of the things that you can do or control within Google Drive. So this is related to that, right? So you're going to see image number 1 is of a Google Drive, and image number 2 is also a Google Drive, but they're a little different. So I'm going to give you a little time with number 1. And you can just call out things if you feel comfortable. If you need to take a moment for yourself and write them down. People have different ways they like to work with these things. Some people, I'm a talker. I like to say my things out loud. Other people like to write them down. Feel free to write them down if you want to and share them in the chat. So what are some things that you notice here about this drive? What do you notice about the things in here? What kinds of things?
Different colors.
Different colors, nice. So how do we, Evelyn, was that you who said that?
Nope, that was Karen.
Fantastic, Karen, excellent. So yes, we see different colors, right? And different things. So what's the difference between these things and these things?
I say those are folders, and those are items that you don't have in folders that are just in your drive.
Beautiful. And who was that? Who said that?
Evelyn.
Evelyn, fantastic. Was that what you had your hand raised for?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, so exactly. So we have here this little icon, which is a folder. And down here, we have little icons that actually mean something else. They're not folders, they're individual documents. And some of the differences we can see as we go over here, right? We have file size. So here, because these are actually files, we can see the file size. These are folders, so we don't see the file size because it's not measuring the size of each individual file. And someone mentioned colors, right? So down here we know that different kinds of files have these different icons. What's the difference between these two blue icons or file types?
One look like it's
Um,
an image and the other one's a Word document.
So up here we have a W, and then we
And
have this
then-
red one, and then we have this other blue one down here.
Google Doc versus Word.
Nice. So this is a Word document, right? And we can, another tip is that we have this docx at the end of the file type here. So that tells me that that's a Word document. So I uploaded that from my computer. I took it, I made it in Microsoft Word, and then I uploaded it here. This one, this icon tells me that this is Google Docs. So I created it in Google Docs. Or I took a Word document and I made it into a Google Doc, which is something else we can do. The beauty of this and the difference in between Microsoft and Google, it's changed a little bit now because you have an online version of Microsoft, but it costs money, right? So many of us are still using a version of Microsoft that's really software that we've downloaded on our computer, and we need that software to create the content, and we also need that software to see that, to open the file. So if someone sent me a Word document that was made in Microsoft, I need to have Microsoft Word to open it. With Google, the software and the file type or the content are together in Drive, right? So by having a Google account, and even without a Google account, just by being online, you can open any kind of a file that's shared with you that's made in Google. And that's one reason we really think that Google is such a valuable tool for adult education, because it's free for us to use, and people can use it across all their devices. So if a learner starts off in a classroom or in a lab, or starts off at home and then wants to work on the same content, they can easily get to it on another device, either in their classroom or on their phone or whatever. And for us teachers as well, right? Maybe we're working at our program, and then we come home or we go to a library to continue our work. So it's very, very easy to, without having to send ourselves links and things like that, we can really easily come back to our content once it's in Google Drive. Okay, so we know that these are different file types. These icons have showed us that. What about these folders? If you look at your Google Drive right now, do you have different colored folders?
No.
No. And the default is this gray color. So the nice thing with Google, and I'll go out in a minute and we'll look at actually playing around and finding where you can make those color changes. But color for me, and again, these are these differences between us all, right? So color is really useful. My eye is immediately drawn to that red folder. I'm immediately like, oh, that's a folder I need to work on. Where the gray ones become, I can get there, but if I'm using one of these folders a lot and I want to get to it very easily, by changing the color, I've made it a little easier for me. What else do you notice here? What order are they in? If I need to,
Your name.
did someone say alphabet? Jocelyn, what did you say?
Yeah, there's like numbers and then alphabetical order after that.
Excellent. So numbers, right, is really important to recognize, because this can be very helpful for organizing your stuff. It will choose numbers will come before the alphabet. So if you put a number before a word, the number is going to be how it's ordered. Then it becomes alphabetical, and in this case, it's also folders above the files. Right, so we have our folders listed here, and then we have to keep going down further. And again, alphabetically, it'll set up all of our files. What does this star mean?
You start it because it was important, probably.
Exactly. Do you see anywhere else where it says something about stars?
Oh, no. I think you have to do it once you click on the folder, and then you can start.
Right. So if I right click on these, I can get to the start thing, but where do they sit when they've got a star on them? Or what does that, there's like a shortcut for them, right?
Left-hand side, you mean the start, right? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So this is a useful space to look at as well. There are before you even start your Google Drive, you will have shared with me, recent, and starred. And anything you add the star to will go into your starred folder. So again, it's a shortcut if you want to use it to put the things that you need to work on a lot, give them the star, and then when you click on the starred folder, everything will be there that you've put a star on. Your responsibility then is to unstar it when you no longer need it to be there. Recent is another folder that is there automatically. So anything you've been doing recently will be there. But again, that is a very, as you move through as you do work, the recent folder will move things down. So it's not a great place to go to, but it can be a great place in an emergency, right? That you were just using something and now you don't know where it is. Go look in your recents. But the recent will be constantly moving as you're doing new work. And shared with me, right? So shared with me is also a bucket that always exists there. Anything that someone has sent you a link to and you've opened will show up in shared with me. And if they've sent it to you, if they've shared it with you directly by your name, by your user, your Gmail account or whatever, it will also show up there. Again, wonderful, but it is a moving target because it will, as new things get shared with you, they will come on top. So it's not, neither shared with me or recent are great places to go back to consistently to find something. They're a great place to go find something, and then you need to decide what to do with that thing. Are you going to put it in another folder? Are you going to star it? Or how are you going to get back to it without relying on shared with me and recent? Because those two, for me at least, they're just always, the thing I was working on yesterday is now, 10 items lower and I can't find it again. So they're not very permanent. They're permanent in that the stuff is there, but they're constantly there's an aggregation going on there where they're constantly growing. We also have spam.
You want to post?
We have trash.
Sir.
You want
And
to
we have
post?
storage.
It doesn't matter. It's okay. I'm just doing a training right now. Mhm.
How much storage does this account have?
Mm-hmm. 50 gigabyte?
Yeah, 15 gigabytes. So with a regular Gmail, you created a new Google account, you're going to have 15 gigabytes of memory for free. In the old days, I mean like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, if you made something using Google file types like Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, that did not count against your 15 gigs. That was amazing. What counted against your 15 gigs, what took memory out of your 15 gigs was email, Gmail, and photos. Now everything takes away from your memory. So when we see over here the file size, that's telling you how many kilobytes are being subtracted from that 15 gigs. You will find that means you might be running out of space, out of storage. You can get more storage. It's not that expensive, but it does cost money. It's an annual fee. Or you can create a new Google account, which is what some people do, right? So you can have more than one Google account. Now, the downside of having more than one Google account is remembering what is where. So you'd have to be very clear in your mind that this is my Google account for work, and this is my personal one, or this is the one for ESL, and this is the one for math. Or go ahead and pay that extra amount, because otherwise you will eventually run out of stuff. You can also download content and kind of take it out of your Google Drive. If you want it, like every year, you could do a clean out. But part of what I love about Google Drive for me is that everything is there, even from like 30 years ago, or whenever I started Google, probably not 30 years ago, 15 years ago. So I'm willing to pay that money. And I feel, again, we'll go look at it live. I just wanted to give you these screenshots to look at. So we've done some noticing in here. Are there any wonderings or any other noticings that you want to share?
I don't know what the type people modified means.
Nice, right? So this is type, people, and modified. So let's hold that one and we'll go to a live Google Drive in a moment and we'll see what that is. Because that's really good. Good point. I like that. Anybody else? Any noticings or wonderings? So hold this one in your mind, and we're going to go to the next image, which is another Google Drive. It belongs to someone different. What are some differences you can see? And again, if you're on the slides, you can toggle back and forth. How much memory does this Google Drive have?
Oh my God.
2 terabytes.
2 terabytes. What? That's craziness. Okay, that's a big difference, right? 15 gigs versus 2 terabytes. What other things? Do we see anything different over here in this left-hand corner, left-hand side?
Shared drives.
Shared drives, right? So in the other one, we didn't have shared drives. We had My Drive and we had Shared With Me, but shared drives is something new here. When you see shared drives, that means that this account is probably part of a workspace, a Google Workspace account. And a Google Workspace, you might remember G Suites. That was the name it had. Again, I'm not going to remember if it was 5 years ago, but it used to be called G Suites. And companies can buy or get for free, if they're a nonprofit or educational, a workspace account. And the workspace account allows them to create, I won't say unlimited, but it's a lot of shared drives. So you could have, if you're working within an organization and you have access, maybe they have a drive where everything is saved and you can go find folders and people have different levels of access. This is the same process. It's just using Google for that saving of things. So in this case, where I work, the Literacy Assistance Center, we have a Google Workspace. That means that we have, I can log in with my work email address because that's what it's associated with. So my Gmail address logs me into my personal Gmail or my personal Google account. My work email logs me into my work Google Workspace. The shared drives give me access to, the administrator has said, Nell can access these 5 shared drives. There's maybe 20 or however many shared drives we wanted to create, but I don't have access to all of them. So I don't need to see the financial records, right? But I need to see everything to do with professional development. I need to see everything to do with Nell Eckersley's content, but I don't need to see everything that Liz Elena has created, right? She can share individually with me, but I don't get to see her whole drive. So it's a much larger enterprise level use of Google, and it does give you a lot more memory. Do any of you know if you're using a Google Workspace account at your work?
Yeah, we do in the library.
Right. So often, especially if it's a larger organization, you might not have a lot to do with this. Someone way up high in administration is the one deciding all of these things. But one clue is when you see shared drive and when you see this much memory, that probably means that you're using a workspace account, and that does change some other things. So that does, it has some impact on how you can share or some things to consider when you're sharing. And there are a couple of other things. Some of them are pluses and some are minuses. Any other notices and wonderings? Let me go back. Let's see if I can, sorry. Yeah, I don't know that most of the rest of it is very similar. Okay. All right, so I'm going to stop for a second and we're going to go out to look at my actual drive. So this is my workspace drive. One of the questions was about the type, people, and modified. So if I click on type, this is really for searching, and I want to find, I can't remember the name of the document, but I know it was a doc. Here I can click on docs, and it's going to find all the docs for me. I don't want to use that. Maybe I want to find everything that Ideal Consortium sent me. I know that much. I can remember that much. Then I'll click that, and I'll find the one document that they shared with me. So these are, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the word. It's sort of like doing, you know, when you're doing a search.
Filters?
Say that again?
I was gonna say like filters.
Yeah, filters, perfect, exactly. So these are filters that are preset for you. There are additional filters up here, right? If you want to get into lots of explicit, you know, you have a lot of memory about some parts of how to find the document, but you don't remember the document. So you do have the filters up there, but these are quick. Sorry, yeah, these are the quick and dirty, what they think most people are looking for. You can also change. Oh, it's not letting me do it. Let's go back to home. All right, let's see here. So something that happened maybe in the last 2 years, last year or so, is that they've added all these different ways to see your drive, and it may have caused you some consternation. You came in and it didn't look the way. I have a very specific way that I have my things organized. You can see I'm using that number at the beginning of these folders, meaning that I know they'll stay at the top, even though alphabetically they wouldn't. And suddenly I came in and it looked like this. And I was like, what? That's not how I want it. And I was very annoyed because Google sometimes does think that it knows what we want, and it's wrong. So we have home, we have this version of my drive, and we have this version of my drive. I don't know why they're different. Maybe someone here does know. I just know that I like to go back to my drive view for most part, because this is how I know how to get to my things. This is
Sorry,
one.
Nell, is
Yeah.
my drive and home the same? That's what I'm confused about.
No, home is different again. And I
Oh,
think
okay.
you can tell it. I think there's a place where you can tell it what you want the home to look like. I think it's a setting, but I don't know it offhand. Does anyone here, has they changed what their home points to?
When you went to drive, there was something on top. Like no, not that drive. Like
That
when
one,
you
this
click
one.
drive. Yeah, there was like a blue thing.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank
change
you.
your
Because I
start
saw
page.
that in the screenshot too, right? So change your start page. Currently it's set to home. You can change it anytime in the settings.
Oh, so like as soon as you open your drive, it will go straight to, yeah.
Exactly. What do you want to be the first page when you open up your drive? And I don't want it to be this. So I haven't done that, but I will, we can certainly play around with that as a setting issue even today together. I'll put that down on my notes right now. The difference between drive and my home and my drive.
I think like what you were saying, like my home is fairly recent. It's probably your most like recent
what I just
documents
said.
that you
Yeah,
opened.
I think you're right. So I think that and that's helpful sometimes, but it isn't really, because I might have clicked some 5 things open to look at something, and now they're in this list. But I agree with you. That's, I think, the way that this is laid out. And I think, so reason it's suggested is that I edited it recently, and this one I've opened frequently. And this one was edited since I last looked at it. Maybe, so it's telling you why it thinks these should be here. But that's annoying. None of that's helpful for me. I don't want Google to tell me what I want to see. But it is another place to look. So if, again, I've definitely had that experience where I was working on something, I accidentally closed it. There's a keystroke for getting back something that you just closed. But if you don't remember that, and I'm not remembering it right now, I can go to all of these different things, right? I have recent. And again, I can see those are all things I was using today. Starred, we mentioned. So I'm really guilty of not cleaning out my starred. So I have a bunch of starred here that's really old, right? And maybe I'm using something from 2019, but I doubt it. So I could do with some work here where I would clear out. And the way you do that is you just right click. And again, this changed. They shrank it down. So now you have to go to organize. And this is also where you get to change the color of your folders. So I'm going to not remove that from starred, but I might change the color to green. Right, so that's how I do that.
But you would have to unstar each one individually, right? You can't
Yes,
take, oh,
yes.
too bad.
Too
She's like-
bad.
Now,
Yeah.
if it's on a Mac, do you know? Like
Say that
not
again?
on a Mac, you know, because you were saying right click.
Left click, right click, yes. I don't remember. Does anyone here use a Mac? We can look it up too.
I think it's the same touchpad.
Do you have a touchpad, Louise?
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's 2 fingers is a left or right.
No.
No.
Yeah. It's just one double on your Mac. It's just a double or a light tap on your touchpad.
Does that make
Or
sense?
if it's too confusing, you could get a portable mouse.
No, forget that, but I just want to know, because I don't know about the,
Well, you know what I'm
I
gonna
mean, I do 2
Louise?
fingers to like move a map or something, but this,
So we
what,
want,
light tap or double tap, is that what you're saying? Because I guess I don't know that.
On your Mac.
all right, you know, I'm gonna Google it. So right click on a Mac. Ugh, of course, I'm not gonna tell you how to do it.
I think if when you on your trackpad.
But this is about programming it, which is annoying.
Programming it?
Yeah,
Oh, you don't
I
want
don't
that.
think you want to do that.
just wanna know what
there
to
has
do.
be.
Option Command F5 to open accept, oh God.
There's a video. All right, we might need to do some homework on that, Louise.
Yeah,
We'll do some
Okay.
homework on that. Yeah,
I thought it'd be simple.
it is simple somewhere. It's just not helping us right now, but that is in general a good one to know about the left and right click. And I should remember to know these things for Apple, for Mac as well as PC. Actually, because a lot of times Chromebooks also follow like a Mac, and I know there's a 2-finger thing, but yes. And Evely, was that you who had the suggestions? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you, Evely, for that. Right. So again, I'm in my start. If I go back to my drive, you can see I don't really star a lot of things because what I've taken to doing is adding a number at the beginning. And that just means it always floats above everything else. And then there's some things I go to a lot that are high up in the alphabet, so they can kind of just stay there as well. Because I have a lot of stuff. Right, so if you're relatively new to using Google or you have more than one account, you may not have a lot of things. It's a very different organizational component. I also have shared drives, which is a whole other layer of content, right? That has a lot of stuff in it that I may or may not have created. The search, I do use it, but I don't love it. I don't feel like it's a very complete, I don't feel like it gets everything I want. So boning up on different search type ways to do things, I think is a good, helpful thing to do. But so I use color. What does this mean?
that a shortcut?
It's a shortcut, yes. So what that means is that this folder, the real folder sits somewhere else, but I've made a shortcut so I can easily see it here. What happens sometimes if I was to go to this folder, inside a folder, you might have another folder, another folder, another folder, which is great for organization. But when you know you need to access something and you want to kind of bring one of those deeper folders back out so it's easier for you to get to, that's a perfect time to make a shortcut. And a shortcut, you just, again, you're going to right click and you're going to want to go to organize, and you remember this symbol? Like I said, it used to be, you could add I mean, you'll sometimes see that symbol up at the top as well. So if I want to add a shortcut, this is relatively new, that it gives you all these different places to put the shortcut. So it used to be kind of the default was just to put it in your drive, which means it'll go into your drive alphabetically. This is a suggestion. These are places I've just been. These are starred places that it thinks I might want to go to, and then this is all the places. And in this case, I sometimes just put things in my drive because that is actually a very limited place to see things, and I get to it very easily. So in this case, that's what we were looking at, right? But I also can go here, so I can click add to add it to my drive, which means it will sit at that layer of my file system. It'll be visible to me immediately, like it's not dug into those inside a folder, inside a folder, inside a folder. But maybe I want to have this shortcut. I could have the shortcut. There are documents I need to look at when I'm working in this project, and this project. I can make a shortcut to the same document for each of these folders, so that when I'm in this folder, I don't have to go back out and find that document. So maybe it's a time document, or maybe you have a calendar, like a spreadsheet with dates on it that you need to see in various places. You can just make another shortcut. So you can have that shortcut 15 different places. It's still going to take you to the same document. You make changes there. Those changes will be visible from all those shortcuts. So this is going back to that idea of, you know, the document, there's a single document, but you're making all of these doorways to it. When someone shares something with me, I like to make a shortcut of it because that way I know where I put it, right? So we talked before, if someone's shared something with me today, that's fine. It's sitting up here. But in a couple of weeks, it's going to be down lower and it'll be harder for me to find it. So it might be helpful to go here. I was just showing you a shortcut from a folder. Here's a shortcut from a document, from a file. So folders and files, right? The folder is the folder and the files can go in the folder. So I want to make a copy. I want to make a shortcut to the Google Club calendar, right? This would be a good one for me to have in all my Google Club folders. I have a different folder for each of our sessions. So I could go here and I could make a copy. What's the difference between making a copy and making a shortcut? Or what would be something to consider between making a copy and making a shortcut?
Are you taking up twice as much space if you make a copy?
You are. So space would be a concern.
What about if you make a change to one?
Yes, this is a good one, right? So if this is my schedule and I want to see it in all these different places, but if I make a change while I'm looking at it in folder X, I want that change to show up when I look at it in folder Y, then I want to do a shortcut. Because again, it's a single document. I'm just coming to it from all these different doorways. If I make a copy, there are now two documents, and I make changes to this document doesn't see those changes.
Could you link them? Or that's just too much
I mean, then you'd be doing like a shortcut to a shortcut to a shortcut.
Yeah.
So I think your point about the memory is a good one. Is it necessary to have shortcut to make copy? I mean, is this something I need 15 copies of? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Usually I only make a copy of something if I'm really going to use it differently. So if it's an outline, you'll see in the digital badge assignments, we have a lesson plan. And that lesson plan to me is something I'd make a copy of because it's a blank document that I'm going to fill in, right? That's a good one to make a copy of. But if I just want it as a reference, and it's actually more important that it stays up to date, and I might be changing it in different places, that's when doing a shortcut is much better idea. So in this one, I'm going to go ahead and make a shortcut. Am I? Is it letting me do that?
I'm making a copy.
Yeah, I don't want to make a copy. Let's see here. Oh, it won't okay, I think I have to do it under organize. That's what the problem is. So with early days, the change they made here was to put all these things under these two different tabs. It used to be that this menu had all those things broken out. And I was like, what happened? I don't know where everything is. So now I just have to remember that if you see that little triangle, it means there are more things there. So under organize is where we have our add shortcut. So I'm going to add shortcut and I'm going to go to my drive. And I'm going to go to my PDU folder. This is what I mean by like folder inside folder inside folder. And I'm going to find my next Google Club. And I'm going to add it there. So now when I go to my PDU folder and I go to my next Google Club, there is that shortcut. And I could do that right now and put that in every single folder for Google Club, right? That would be another way to do it. This is a file. Again, we talked about the difference between a file and a folder. I could also do the same thing with a folder. So I can have a shortcut to a whole folder if I want to. And that can be very valuable if there are a number of documents I need, or if it's one thing with Google Forms, which we'll talk more about when we get to Google Forms, but Google Forms are very hard to collaborate in. Most Google documents, another reason we like Google is that if I share it with you and I give you edit capability, you and I could work on it together and make changes, or you could work on it and I'd see your changes. Google Forms are the one time when that's a little harder to do. You have to kind of play the game a little bit. You can add a collaborator, but that I found is tricky. So the way I usually do that is I put it in a folder and then I share the folder, and then anyone can see what's inside that folder that I share it with. Okay, so that was a lot. Any questions about anything that you saw me do or you see in your own drive where you're like, what? Why is it like that?
I have a question. Because I'm practically new to the drive. I always was curious how to use it. It's my first time actually learning how to organize everything. But what I'm looking at is when I'm making folders and I'm moving my files to the folders, I noticed that I have to at home I see everything, all the files and everything unorganized. So do I have is that how it's supposed to look?
So you have all your files hanging out down, like if I scroll down here, we'll get to some files. There we go. So these are files that are just hanging out.
Yes.
And if you don't have a lot of content, it's fine, right? This is just like having papers on your desk. Absolutely fine to have a bunch of papers on your desk. But as you start to work a lot with a certain set of papers, it might be useful to put those in a folder. So we're really following the same convention that you might be using, maybe. If you looked at my desk, I don't have a lot of folders. I should have more folders. So this is that convention. If you're going to have a lot of documents related to the same thing, it might be easier for you to put those all in a folder with a label that makes sense, so you can come back and see them all together. If it's something that's a one-off, or you're just trying it out, you could just put it in your drive. It's all going to be there for you. The problem, honestly, the problem is coming back and finding it. So the folder is a tool to help you find things that are similar, but you have to have created that system. You have to decide what your system is going to be. So, you'll see this is a big mixture, right? This is my personal stuff and it's my work stuff, which is just fine because I know which things are which, just because I've labeled them pretty well. You saw just now, oops, I don't know what's going to open there. Let's go back to my drive. These are the ones I'm using the most, right? As you scroll down, this is alphabetical. But certainly the ones that I've given numbers to are the ones I'm using the most at any given time. And you can always rename a folder. It's different than in Google, in Microsoft, where you just double click or slowly double click to change the name of a folder. You have to go here to rename it. But you can rename it. You can take that one off. So say this project is really big right now, Celia T, I'm doing it right now, but later on I don't need to see it so much. Then I could come in and take that one off and it would move down alphabetically back into the filing cabinet of all my folders. So there's nothing wrong with keeping documents just on their own, the files just listed on their own. But as you know how you're going to be using content, you will want to start thinking about how to organize that. So it's easy, you're going to end up with so much stuff that just having a long list of alphabetically listed files is going to be really, for most people, it's going to be really annoying. And that's when you're going to want to put it into a folder, because then you could have 4 folders and everything's there. Rather than, and it's true within a folder, right? Inside a folder, today I was working on a folder of logos. My logo folder just had all these files that were all these different logos. I'm like, well, actually I have enough now that's a little annoying. I actually want to go ahead and make a folder for the logos specific to this project and a folder specific to this project. So as you start to find it's annoying because there's too many things related, but you're not able to find them easily, that's usually a good moment to consider whether a folder would be helpful. The danger is, as you saw a little bit, I often end up having a folder inside a folder inside a folder inside a folder. And if I need to get to that thing that's 4 folders in, that's 4 or 5 clicks. And that's when I might want to make a shortcut to surface that lowest folder in specific places that might be helpful. So the example of the logo folder, for example, right? I have logos for Project X and Project Y. And I have a folder called logos. Inside there is logo X, logo, another folder, logo Y. I could do a shortcut to logos Y and put it in the Project Y folder. So that shortcut would just be a direct thing there. But days that I need to go work on logos, I could go open up the logo folder and still be able to find them there. That's kind of what the shortcut business is about. It's sort of, you know, what's handy. If you think about grocery stores where, like, you know, you want to buy milk, is the milk in the far, I went to a grocery store recently, they had the milk in the back corner, but they also had it up front near the cereal. How brilliant. So there's no reason in Google not to have things connected that you find you use. And there's no rule about that. It's purely your own noticing, it'd be useful right now. I'm in this folder, right? Let's look at an example. I don't know if I'm saying too much and not showing, but for example, right, my PDU folder has all the workshops I'm going to be doing. That's great. So that's why I put all those folders inside a folder. I understand that logic. Then inside this folder, there are 2 other folders, right? There's the Google Club Task 1 folder. This is where you guys will put your demonstration of your work. Right now, that's fine. I don't need to see it every day, right? It can just stay here. But once you submit your work, I might want to make a shortcut to my drive so that it's going to sit out here. And I also want to show you something else. So if I make this red, do you think that the shortcut is also going to be red? Let's see. So I'm going to go to my drive, and it's going to be alphabetical under Google. And it's a shortcut. There it is. So the shortcut did not get the same color as the original folder. This is important for you to know. If you're working with students or colleagues or whatever, this is totally a personal view. So I see all of these as pink, but if I share this with you, you will get a gray folder and you can decide what color it's going to be. So you can't create a purple folder and give a link to someone and say, go to the purple folder. They're going to see a gray folder. They have to decide to make it whatever color they want. And that's fine. So I know that this is red before. I'm going to go ahead and make it red again, because that's sort of my code for like, this is important. And do you think I could rename the shortcut? Will that impact the name of the regular folder? Let's try it. So I'm going to click on this again. I'm right clicking. I'm going to go to rename, because I want to do my cheating thing. I want to put that number in front of it so it goes up to the top of my drive. All right, so now it's here. What do we think? If I go back to, I have to go to PDU, I have to go to today, up, and it's there, and it didn't change the name. So another good thing to know, the shortcut can be renamed. It still points back to that original document or that original folder, but it can have a different name if you need it to. And sometimes you do. What I've noticed, for example, if you have a folder that's called ESL2, and in there you have a document that says homework, you understand that that's homework for ESL2. But if you did a shortcut to that document, it's just going to say homework. And that shortcut might sit out in another place, and you might need to add ESL2 to the beginning of that name for it to be useful in that other place. So this is again, just so you understand, you have that ability to organize things the way you want to, but just know that if you change the name on a shortcut, it doesn't impact the name of the original document, and vice versa. If you change the original document, it won't change the name of the shortcut. If I change the color of the original folder, doesn't impact the shortcut folder color, and vice versa, right? So these are all, for better or for worse, they're all things you have to just deal with separately. All right. How do we feel? I'm going to go back to my slides. The next piece was another view. So this is called this or that. Which one do you prefer? So we have this view, and I'm using this example, which is not mine. This is the personal Google account. We can see there are 15 gigs of data there, right? So this is a smaller account, less stuff in it. Belongs to G. I can see the G up there. So there's this way of looking at it, or there's this way of looking at it. What do people prefer? A or B? This view or this view? What's the difference? Yes.
Just one long list. I
Yeah.
think I hear that.
So this is one long list, and this view, I mean, it's kind of handy, right? Like if I go over here
Guess
and
you
I
can see
see
more.
Google Club 1 PNG, I don't know what that looks like, but I go over here and I can see Google Club 1 PNG looks like this. So that's kind of cool. But if I had a whole bunch of folders, what would happen up here? It would go bananas. If I go back now, oops, sorry.
That looked like it belongs in the logo folder.
That does belong in the logo folder. Well spotted. Okay, let me go back. Didn't mean to jump out of there. All right, so we go back to my crazy big. Oh, it doesn't want me to change. There we go. If I go back to my usual drive, which is so huge and messy, the way that I change, how do I change the view, do you think?
On the left side, there's like a square and a list. Oh no, left. That's right. Sorry.
I like it though, the other left. It's good. Okay, exactly. So we have these 3 lines, which indicates list. And we have this little checkbox to say that's what you're looking at. And it even says list layout. And over here, watch the magic. This is what it looks like in the grid layout. This would make me crazy. I can't do it. as a person with lots of folders, this is not useful for me. If I get down to the documents, so back to that question, Gloria, I think it was you who asked, if you're just keeping your documents there and you don't have a lot of folders, then this might be a great view, right? It's pretty handy. I don't have to even read these words. I can just look and see what these images are, and that tells me a lot. So there's no right or wrong. That's why they give you both, but you want to consider what's easier for you. And if you're doing this with learners, you want to make sure that they understand how to get back and forth, because there's nothing really, nothing worse than the teacher or someone saying, okay, go to the third tab down, and the other person is looking at this screen and going, what? I don't see what you see. Because that's always the fear, right? Always the fear that I'm lost. I'm not where everyone else is. So being able to toggle between these two, people need to feel really comfortable doing that. And then they should decide which one they like. But if someone else sends them something and it comes out weirdly, they know they have that option. So again, list layout and grid layout. That was one of those things in our little assessment thing. All right, we've moved quite a lot, but we haven't talked about sharing very much. What are some challenges around sharing that you all have? Or fears, concerns, love, joys that you have about sharing?
Then nobody can mess with it if you don't want them to.
So do you feel secure, Louise, that you can share that way, or do you fear that you don't?
Well, what I usually do is I make a PDF.
Yes, so that is definitely a way to handle it, right? If you make a PDF, you can put the PDF in your Google account. That way you can grab the link and share it, but the document is not something that's easy for people to edit. And I've seen a lot of people do that. So that's definitely one way to do it. What we can, let's see, I think I put 2 pictures in here. Okay, well, we didn't talk yet about how to get to new files, right? So in Google Drive, we have this beautiful big new. It's a pretty typical convention in Google that a plus sign means new. So if you see a plus sign, try it out. Under there, you'll see all of these file types. And look, there are even more. So a lot of file types here. Even Google Sites is here, right? Jamboard, I think we all know, might be going away, which is very sad. Anyway, so this is where all of these file types are. And I'm someone, when I open my Chrome in the morning, my Google Drive opens immediately. I just have it open all day long. So this is probably the way that I would go ahead and find a document or also create a document. But if you're not someone who has their Drive open all the time, or you don't want to deal with Drive and you just want to get right to it, what are some other ways to create a new file of any of these kinds? A new, maybe you want to make a new Google Doc or a new Google Sheet. How would you do it?
You click on the new button that's in the corner.
Right. So if you're in Drive, that totally works. But what if I'm not? My Drive is not open yet, and that's like one extra piece to do. Yes, Louise.
I I go to that square that's made out of a bunch of dots up in the upper right.
So when you see this square with 3 dots by 3 dots, they call it a waffle sometimes. It's also called the app launcher. And you'll see it, sometimes you'll see it, you won't see it all the time. But if you see it, you click on it, it will show you all of those different file types and a lot more. And you can actually organize this so it's organized the way you want it to be. You just drag things around. But this is another way very quickly, right? If I want to just make a doc, I just go to there and I click there and a doc will open up. Anybody else? Other ways to create a new document?
I just type docs.
Nice. So are you doing that in Chrome or are you doing it in a different
In Chrome, yeah.
Chrome? So if we type docs, first of all, it starts to put stuff in here, right? And I don't want it to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Yeah, all right. So that is one way to do it. What I do is I do docs.new.
Oh,
And
Huh.
do you think this works with slides? Slides.new?
yes.
what about mail.new? I haven't tried this one. Let's see. Mail.new. Oh, it'll make me log in. Okay. What the heck's? I don't even know what it thinks I'm logging into. That's not good. Okay, how about well, yes. So just so you
Sheets.
know, if you're using Chrome, you can put in the name of the tool, the file type you want to make. So docs, sheets, slides, any of those things, .new, and it will open a new one. Just, you don't have to do anything else. It'll just be open and you'll be ready to go. The downside of that is that you're going to have to decide where it goes. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to stop sharing. The downside is you're not taking time before you do anything else to decide where it goes. So let me get rid of that one. Okay, so if I'm here, I'm opening a new document, it's just going to sit in my drive. So I'm going to have to be very careful at the end to remember where I want to put it, right? Personally, I prefer to go through my drive because I can say, okay, where do I need to make a new document. I'm going to do it inside here. And I open up that folder. And then in here, I do new, and then it knows to put that new doc in this folder. If I just make it new out here, it's not anywhere. It hasn't been saved anywhere yet. It's just going to be my drive. So I'm going to have to move it afterwards. I'm just going to have to remember that I need to tell it where to go. So by default, if you don't tell it anything, it'll just be in your drive. You can go find it later. But, you know, we just saw my drive's very full, so that's not great for me. And I want to go ahead and I'm usually trying to be very mindful of cutting out, being as efficient as possible. So we've talked about the launcher. We've talked about .new. There's also docs.google.com, right? So with any of these things, if you type sheets.google.com, it'll take you to a new one. What was the difference between, okay, so you saw me do sheets.google.com. Now what if I do sheets.new? So what's the difference between these two experiences?
Was the second one, I'm not even sure. Was it in the drive? I mean, in the like docs drive, or
So they both
I'm not sure what I'm saying. Never mind.
I hear you. I hear it. No, it's good. I think what I understood you to oh, what did I do there? So both of these are going to just be in my drive. I have not told Google to put them in any folder. So they're both just going to be in my drive so far. But this one, can I start typing into the sheets right now? No, it's giving me options. It's showing me all of my recent sheets. It's showing me some templates. So that could be handy, but it's another click. So if I know I just want a basic sheet right now, I don't want anything else, sheets.new. But if I need to make some choices, maybe I want to use a template, or I want to go back to find one of my recently used sheets, then the sheets.google.com takes me to this view. So that's the difference between those two. So if it's useful to have all of this stuff to choose from, do the .google.com. And if it's useful just to go straight to the place where you can actually do the work, do the .new. That's the difference between those two pieces. And that is in the slides. So there's a bunch of tips here, right? This is that docs.new, which works with slides.new, sheets.new. This is the drive.google.com or forms.google.com. And then we talked about the launcher, right? And drive.google.com is how you can get to Drive. If you're wondering how you get there. Usually I just Google it and it does pop up. Okay, we're really running out of time. So sharing. Which one of these, I don't know if it's easy to see. So one of these is a folder and one is a document. And I right-clicked in both cases, and I clicked on share, and I got these two different dialog boxes. Can you guess which one is the folder and which one's the document?
Folders on the left.
Folders on the left. Very good. Why do you say that?
Because there's an option for contributor to add and edit files.
Excellent detective work. Yeah, so if I want to share a folder, I'm given some more options of what kind of sharing I can do or what level of access people will have. And I have to double check because I did do this in my I did this in my workspace account, and it might be that this is not what you see in a regular account. So I will double check that and I will add it to the slides. But yes, this is the folder. So if I want to share a folder with other people, I decide, are they only allowed to see the things in the folder? Can they comment on the things in the folder? Can they add things but not delete anything? Or can they add and delete, right? Or organize? Over here on a document, we really just have viewer, commenter, and editor. And I'm a big one for taking this link and sharing that, but that means everyone who gets that link has the same level of access. So if I'm doing a workshop, that works. I'm going to give you guys all the same level of access. But maybe I have a colleague who should be allowed to edit because she's working on this with me. Then I'd probably invite her here. And I could say, this colleague should be able to edit, this colleague should be able to comment, but everyone who gets the link can only view. That's kind of the way I tend to use this. Another thing to know about adding people up here is you want to make sure that whatever email address you use here is whatever their Google account is. And that's another reason why I tend not to use it unless I know who I'm sharing with very well and I have their Google account. Because this is, if you've ever gotten that thing where you get a link and you try to open it and it says you need access and then you have to ask for access and then they have to give it to you. That's to do with this, right? They've invited you, but as something else. And when you try to access it using a different account, it doesn't know who you are. So again, really with colleagues, this is very easy. If I'm dealing with strangers or people I don't know very well, or I just don't know that I have your right account, I might want to grab this link. If I give you, so if I wanted to share this with you, right, I can go to the share and I can go, anyone with the link can view it. So I'm going to copy that link and I'm going to paste it here. Do you think this link changes if I was to go back in now and say, I wanted to give you a link that would let you edit it? So if I go back to share and I say, actually, anyone with this link can edit it. I'm going to copy this link. Do you think it's going to be the same link? Hands up if you think it's the same link. Let's try it. It's the same link. The link doesn't change. The permission changes. Even though the word sharing is here and edit is here, it's the same link. So you have to be very careful that if you, it's good to know that, right? Because there could be something that you give people edit capability and then on Wednesday, you're going to stop letting them edit. And you just go in and you change the permission, but the link that they have will still be the same. So now if you were to click on either of these links, they're the same link. We have 1 minute left. I didn't give you time to do the evaluation. So you have to promise to do the evaluation. I'm going to give you the link in an email. So you have to do the evaluation. I get in a lot of trouble. But I want to point out that one last trick here is if you change this word. Okay, first of all, this is a live link. And I know that because it's blue and it is underlined. I want the link to go away. So I have these options here of copying it, editing it, or removing it. I'm going to remove it. So this is no longer a hyperlink. It's just a bunch of letters and numbers and whatever. I go in here and I change edit to copy. And now I go to the end of that and I do the space bar. Now it's a live link again. When I click on it and I go there, it's going to force me to copy it. If you're working with learners and you want to make them copy something, this is one way to do it. It is useful if everyone needs to make their own version of something, right? So you have a worksheet that you want them all to do on their own. You can put this copy inside the link. They're going to be forced to open it as a new document. So now there'll be 15 of that document instead of the 1. Only if you need them all to have their own. One thing to warn people is I don't always love this, right? Like I kind of want to see what the document is. And if you share the document, let's see here. If you share the document, so say I'm sharing this. If I share it with you as a viewer and you opened it up, right, it's going to look just like the one we were looking at. But I have view only access. I can always make a copy. So I do that under file, right? Under file, I have make a copy. So you can teach your students to do it that way too. You don't have to do this cheating forced thing, and they get to see what the document is before they make the copy. So you have to decide. Sometimes it's good to do the forced copy, sometimes it isn't. Okay, we have run out of time. I really appreciate everything everyone said. Yes. Are you waving? You have a question?
Yeah, Neil, I sent you a question on chat.
Oh,
I don't-
excellent. Let me go back. So if I can, this is you, Bernard. I'm
Yes.
curious if I can transfer data from my Google Drive from one Google account to one another. I'm currently getting a new job and I want to transfer. Yes. So the way I know to do this is to have both drives open. Well, there's 2 ways. One is to share with your new self, right? And actually, this was one of the questions on there, but it's better for me to show it to you. So for those of you who can stick around, this will be recorded. And I understand some people have to leave, and I'm going to just take an extra 10 minutes to go over this because it's a good one and it'll be in the recording. So if you need to run away, that's fine. If you can stick around, we'll review this. So I'm going to open a different account so I can show this to you. Okay. So the issue is that you can also make someone an owner of, you can transfer the ownership of a document to someone else. This is one of the downsides of Workspace. It doesn't let you do that. So I have to show it to you in an account that is not a Workspace account. That's what I'm opening up a different Chrome account or Google account. Let me just share this screen with you. Okay, so this account is a personal account. We can see that 15 gigs, right? So I know it's a personal account. So you'd want to create your new account, Bernard. So you definitely have your 2 different beings in Google. So here we have Gabe, the G, and I want to, let's go back to home. And say I wanted to change the ownership on this document. So I can go to the share. Let's go to share. And I should be able to transfer ownership. So it's going to let me do it. All right, let me try putting in we'll try putting me in there.
Maybe the settings. I was gonna say if you go back, maybe if you press the setting button on top.
This one? Or back in there somewhere?
No, like as you were about to share,
Okay.
and then there was like a setting button on top. So you went to share. And
This
then
one?
that. Yeah, maybe that's like what you're.
So editors
Uh-huh.
can change permissions, viewers and commenters can see options. Okay, so that's still good to know about, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
There is a place where you can just go in and change ownership, but of course it's not going to show it to me. Let's see here. Well, even if you don't change the ownership, you can go here and you can invite your other self, right? So you would put in your new account here and you would share it with yourself.
Is that one document at a time? Because I have, I have my whole curriculum and.
So you can share it folder by folder, but in the end, you're gonna, if you're with your old account, is that gonna be something that you don't have access to at all eventually?
I don't know.
Because
I would imagine, after I formally resign, they probably will disconnect me, I
Right.
would imagine.
right. So yeah, honestly, this is the hardest part. We had to do it too. So when we were moving from having our own personal Google accounts to having the Gmail, to having this workspace one, we were supposed to move all the documents over that had to do with work, and it was one by one copying and making copies of everything. But it's actually pretty fast. So if I wanted to make copies of all of these things, I hold down the control key
Yeah,
and highlight all these, and I
Uh-huh.
can just make copies. They're gonna let me make copies. Why won't it let me make copies?
share maybe.
No, there should be a way to make copies.
Oh, I see copies and then download?
Well, you make the copies and then, so the first step would be for you to share it with yourself in your new account. Then
Yeah,
you view the shared folder, and those are the ones you make copies of. Does that make sense? So
yeah.
let
I
me
can-
stop sharing here. So what that looks like is if I was over here in my account. So I'm in my drive. I want to take everything from here and have it in another drive.
Right,
My first step would be to share it. And in this case, I'm going to share it with my work self. And I'm going to make myself an editor. And I don't even need to notify myself. I'm just going to do it that way. So I'm going to do share. Okay, so now I'm going to stop sharing for a second. And I'm going to open up my other account. Okay, so now you're going to see my workspace account. All right, so this is my workspace account. Let me just get rid of some of these so I can move around a little bit. Okay, so now under the shared with me, there's that folder.
Wow.
So I'm going to open that up. And I'm going to, in this case, this is a bad example because it's a folder full of folders. So now if I go into, let's see if I can do this one. Nope, nothing's there. Basically, I would go in and I would copy. So you could highlight 5 things and then you should be able to right click and say make a copy. So it's saying make a copy there. So I can make a copy. And it's going to make the copy inside here. Do I see where it went? Yeah. So one of the things about Google is that when you make a copy, it always adds copy of.
Yeah, right.
So you
Yeah,
would do that, and then you'd find all the things that say a copy of, and those you could grab all together and move those into a new folder. Then you would own that content. if you just keep going back to this shared folder, when they shut down that account, you could lose it.
Yeah,
If they delete things, you'll lose those things. So that's why you want to make a copy of everything.
I
So
got
share it
you.
with yourself first, make a copy, then you can actually delete the shared version and just keep your copies.
I gotcha. Okay, let me work on that
Yeah.
because it's kind of like getting a bridge loan when you leave an
Yes.
apartment or something, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, because one wants to hire me. I mean, everything's kosher,
Yes.
but I'm gonna get a new account at the new
Oh,
job. Yeah.
well,
so-
congratulations on that. And it looks like someone in the chat did talk about ways to change ownership. I've definitely done that. So we had someone, again, similar situation, except she left and she left some documents that we were using, and we were afraid that she was going to close down her account and we would lose access. So we wanted to change, we didn't want a new document. We didn't want to make a copy. So sometimes a copy is great if it's just your list of curriculum. But if it's an active document and everyone else has links to it, you
Yeah.
want to keep that contact with that actual document. That's when changing ownership is a really good tool. And it looks like Macy has put that in the chat. So I will add that to the slides.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and feel free to reach out. You know, these questions are really helpful because that's how, you know, those are the real life issues that people have.
Are you accessible between between sessions or?
Yes. So the
Okay.
email address is in the slides, and I will send out an email either later today or early tomorrow with links to the slides and the evaluation and all that stuff. So
Okay.
I have my email address that way too.
May
Thank
I
you.
ask a question now?
Yes, Louise. Yes.
Go back
Yeah.
to before this last part, which was
Yes.
interesting. When you changed that one word in the link,
Yes.
what was the original word and you changed it to?
Edit. So it's the word edit. It's got edit and a question mark, and you just want to change the word edit and to copy.
Yeah.
And you also can do present. So with slides, if you were sharing a link with slides and you changed the word edit to present, when they open the link, the slides would be in presentation mode. And that can sometimes be helpful too, because there's certain things in slides that don't function so well if you're not in presentation mode. And people can forget that. So if you were sharing a slideshow with students and you wanted them to kind of go through it just like a book, it's good to have it in presentation mode.
I've made PDFs of, you know,
Which
slides.
is the same
They
thing.
just,
So
you know, go to the, you know, yeah.
That's another great workaround. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
And the
Thanks.
copy thing, you know, so yeah, those are all, that's a good, I mean, your PDF plan is a good workaround.
Right.
Yeah, but the fact that the link stays the same, I think a lot of people don't ever notice that, and it makes them think they're sharing something new. It's like, no, whatever the link was, it's the same for everybody. Even if today you shared this link,
Change the
you
what
have
do
to
you
go ahead and change. Yeah, change
the
the access level.
yeah.
All right. Anybody else questions? Jocelyn, Macy, thank you for that link about ownership.
Very much.
Oh, thank you. Sorry that was late, but it was really helpful.
Again, it'll be recorded, so we'll also share that with you. We put it up on a blog, and so you'll have access to the whole thing.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you
Thanks.
for sticking
Bye.
around
Thank
later.
you.
Have a good
We always
night.
leave enough
Bye.
Good
time.
seeing everybody.
Yes, really good to see you too.
Bye.
Take care.
Take
You
care.
too.
Thank you.